Hi, Russell Nollen here. Thanks for joining me. In this video guitar lesson, I'll show you how to change the strings on your electric guitar. More specifically, if it's a Gibson style with a stop tailpiece, your guitar strings will age gradually and need periodic replacing. Even if you do your best to clean your hands before playing, clean your strings after playing, keep the strings in tune, and store your guitar in an ideal climate, your strings will wear out. Your strings should last about 3 months. They may need replacing much sooner, they may last much longer, or anywhere in between, depending on several factors, including how corrosive your fingers' perspiration is, how much you sweat, how you clean your strings after playing, how much you play, how hard you play, and the environment that you keep your instrument in. Your strings have an elastic property to them. In time, they'll lose their ability to stretch and hold an even tension along the length of the string. Symptoms of this problem are the strings will be stubborn to tune, they'll be difficult to keep in tune, and as the strings age, they'll lose their shiny color, they'll appear duller, darker, and noticeably tarnished in places. The tone quality of the strings will sound duller, and as your strings tarnish over time, they'll feel rougher. Now, if you're ready to change your guitar strings, I'm going to show you how. The first recommendation that I have for you is to take your guitar to either a professional guitar technician, a luthier, or a guitar teacher to have them recommend the proper string gauge for you and your guitar. If you choose to replace your strings with a different gauge than what you have on your guitar, then your guitar may need adjustments to correct for the change in string tension. If you select a string set that is similar or identical to the strings that are currently on your guitar, then we will proceed with changing them here. Before we begin, have the following tools ready. Your spare set of strings, peg winder, wire cutters, small flathead screwdriver, mineral oil or lemon oil or fretboard conditioner, and a soft cotton cloth, a microfiber cloth for cleaning and polishing, 4/0 steel wool for conditioning the fretboard, pliers, and if you can, a 10mm nut driver comes in pretty handy too. Okay, on this particular guitar, we're going to be doing a little bit of maintenance, and we're also going to be doing a little setup work. First thing we're going to do is remove the old strings from this guitar. And the first thing we can do is loosen them up at the headstock. You can do this by finger or much faster with the string winder. And just loosen the strings until they're completely slack, one by one. And once you've done that, we'll cut them. And if you're a little bashful about scratching the surface of this guitar, what you can do is just put a piece of cloth underneath there. And this way you don't have to worry about scratching the surface. So we'll cut them one by one. I'm going to hold them down here so they don't fly away. And we can take that tail piece, pull it right off, along with the ball end set of along with the ball end of the strings. Now we can take the rest of the strings, and what I'm going to do, just wrap this in a coil. Once, twice. They stay all together that way. And unravel them one by one. Gently, because these ends tend to be quite sharp. You don't want this flying away and poking your skin. And there we go. And next what we're going to do is condition the fretboard. We get your 4/0 steel wool, and what we're going to do, just take this over the fretboard side to side in a zigzagging pattern up the fretboard and back down with a firm but gentle pressure on it. You don't really need to grind so much force into these. And then take it right along the length of the fretboard. And there. And for any extra dust, you can use compressed air, blow on it, or just a clean cloth to wipe off any excess dust. Next, we'll use a little fretboard conditioner. And a little goes a long way. We'll apply it directly to the cloth. Right there. In the same manner, just zigzag it up the fretboard. Back down. Then lightly across. And using a drier end of the same cloth, wipe off any excess. Now that we got the strings off, this is a perfect opportunity to do a little extra cleaning here. Any extra dust that's otherwise hard to get to with the strings on, go right into it. Right here in the headstock, and right here in the body. And for this, I just use a microfiber cloth. I personally don't recommend using any other polishers, cleaners, any other cleaning agents on it. A good microfiber cloth is all you need. A little elbow grease. Okay, next we're going to install the new strings. You want to get your string set out. And personally, this is a set that I use. I recommend it. You might choose to go with a different brand. You might choose to go with a different gauge, and that's okay. And again, you should go to a technician, a guitar technician, or luthier, and find out which string set is best for you and your guitar. In this case, we're going to go to a little bit of a lighter gauge string set than what was originally on it. So when this was all said and done and the guitar strings are put on, we're going to do a little setup. Okay, in this case, your string set should clearly label which strings are first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And just to remember too, little string, little number, big string, big number. It's one thing I like about the D'Addario sets. They have color coding there. Silver ball end, first string, second string is purple ball end there, and so on. Now, this is going to be simple. We can just take the strings and put them right into the tailpiece of this guitar. And take them one by one from the first string on, and we're just going to unravel it once, twice, and then gradually pull it apart. You don't want to tug on it too hard. You certainly don't want any bends or kinks into the string. All right, first string into the first hole. Got to go all the way through. Second string, same way, just unravel it gently. Put it into the tailpiece. Thread it all the way through, oh, just like that. And the third string. Fourth string, just unravel that. Thread it through. Fifth string. Thread that through. Sixth string. Thread that right through the sixth hole. Okay, one thing I'm going to do before I put the strings on, at the headstock, you can take a 10mm nut driver, put it right over top of the tuning post, and just check to see how snug they are. If they come a little loose, you want to make sure that they're tight, and that one is right there. I'm going to give that a little bit of a gentle but firm, snug twist. There, they otherwise look pretty good. And also, you can check the tuning buttons over here too. They shouldn't be a strong effort to tune, and they shouldn't also be able to twist with just a little flick. So if they're too loose or too tight, you can get in here with a small flathead screwdriver, and that button right there, you can twist it while holding on to that to tighten it or to loosen it. And so far these look pretty good. And now we'll proceed with installing the strings at the headstock. So from the first string, we're going to thread that through the tuning post. Just like so. I'm going to pull it all the way tight over the bridge saddle, through the nut, through the tuning post, and about 2 post lengths distance, or roughly a finger's length distance, and that's where you want to measure it off from. Pull it back, get your string winder, and start spinning. And you'll notice that I'm holding on to this string with a little pressure right up against the post. And the first time we're spinning it, it's going to go over top of itself. And once it does that, you can grab a little pressure, guide it with one finger while maintaining a little pressure with the other. This way it's not going to go anywhere but where I want it to go. And then continue spinning it. And then once you get a little wrapping around it, push that up and out of the way. We'll trim that off a little bit later. But the rest of the wrappings, the string should wind around itself underneath in a downward spiral right around the post. And wind it, make sure that it's over the saddle on the bridge and through the first slot in the nut, and bring it up till it's fairly taut. You don't need to bring it up to perfect pitch yet. We'll do a little stretching a little bit later. And we'll line up this post here. Bring the second string through the second post hole all the way tight. Make sure that it's across the saddle on the bridge. And then again, about a finger's length distance, or roughly about 2 posts. Pull it back, and then start winding. First time over top of itself. And once you get there, a little pressure, and continue wrapping. Push that up and out of the way, and continue in a downward spiral. Make sure it's sitting squarely across the saddle through the nut slot, and then bring it up to where it's tight enough to make a pitch, but we're not going to worry about getting it perfectly in tune yet. Okay, third string through the third post, all the way tight, about a finger's length distance. Pull it back, put a little pressure onto the post, and start winding. And you'll notice what direction I'm winding these strings. You don't want it to get the other way around. Push that up and out of the way, and continue winding. In a nice downward spiral. Okay, make sure it's sitting squarely over proper bridge saddle. And through the nut slot. Okay, and bring it up to tension. And again, it doesn't need to be perfectly in pitch. And we continue in sequence. Fourth string through the fourth post. Pull that all the way tight, about a finger's length distance. Push it off, bring it back. We're going to hold that up against the post while we're spinning it. First time over itself, over top of itself. Pull that straight up. And guide it in a nice downward spiral. Okay, and make sure it's sitting across the bridge saddle slot that you want it. and through the nut slot and bring it up. All right. Fifth string through the fifth post. Same as always. You're catching on now, right? About a finger's length distance. Measure it off. Bring it back. Wind around itself over top first. And pull that up and out of the way. You can push it up out of the way. With a little pressure over here and a little guidance over there. We'll wind it in a nice downward spiral. There we go. All right. And for the sixth string, we'll line up that post all the way through. And again, about a finger's length distance. You won't need quite as much with the wound string. Once over top of itself, and the rest of the times underneath. Pull that up and out of the way. And there we are. Now you can take your wire cutters and go right up to the post. And clip off any excess. Just like so. Nice, neat, and clean. Now we'll tune up the strings. And if you don't have an electronic tuner, I strongly urge you to get one. All right, first string, we're tuned to an E. And again, it doesn't have to be perfectly in tune quite yet because we're going to stretch these. Second string to a B. Third string to a G. Fourth string to a D. Fifth string to an A. Sixth string to an E. All right, and the next step is crucial to getting the strings to set in tune and to stay in tune. So what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to stretch them. What I'm going to do is grab the string right about 12th fret and give it a little bit of a firm but gentle tug or pull. And you can do this also along the length of the string. And continue along with each string. Okay, we'll bring it up to pitch one more time. I don't know if you can hear that, but that dropped about a half step there. Now, otherwise, without having done that stretching that we just did, that would have occurred over the course of the next few hours or days, even while you're playing. And that would leave you wondering, why can't I keep my guitar in tune? Chances are, if that's your problem, then this is the step that you missed. Again, first string to an E, second string to a B, third string to a G, fourth to a D, fifth to an A, sixth to a low E. And we'll give it one more stretch. And something else you can do is grab it about 5th and 15th fret and just give it a little bit of a wiggle side to side. All right, we'll bring this up to pitch one more time. Okay, and we'll give it a final tune-up. And by the way, if you find that after a second stretch, the pitch is slacked quite a bit, you can go ahead and give it a third stretch. And if you need, a fourth stretch. That should just about do it. 1 or 2 stretches, if done properly, will usually set the strings to being perfectly in tune. Next, what I'm going to do on the setup is check the action on this. And what we mean by action is how far apart or how close the strings set to the fretboard. Okay, in this setup, what I'm going to do is check the truss rod, which is essentially a torsion rod inside the neck that helps to regulate or to balance the tension that the strings are pulling one way. That can be adjusted. And if you look at the guitar's neck, it looks perfectly straight, but in reality, there's a slight curve from 5th to 12th fret. So using the string as a straight edge, I'm going to hold that down at the 1st fret and at the 5th fret. We're going to check to see that there should be about a paper thin distance between the 5th and 7th fret. And we're also going to do that on the 1st string. And that looks about good right there. Okay, in the instance that the distance there is a little too much, you can tighten it by taking off the truss rod plate at the headstock. And just like you're screwing a lid onto a jar, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And by the way, yeah, if you're measuring this and there's no gap there, you can loosen it the same way, about a quarter turn each time. Okay, now that we're sure that the fretboard and the neck are adjusted properly, what I'm going to do is lower the action a little bit on this here. And you can do that by hand, here. And also take a screwdriver okay, and again, if it's a little too tense for finger grip, grab a cloth and again, turning it clockwise will lower it down, turning it counterclockwise will bring this up. And we're going to want this action as low as we can get it. And it depends on your personal preference too. How hard you're playing, how gentle you're playing, how fast you're playing, what kind of action you like. And you'll notice, of course, too, bring the action down a little bit will slack the strings quite a bit. And that's okay for now. We'll adjust that a little bit later. And something else I'll point out, that sometimes, depending on the guitar's setup or the original setup that you had it in before, the pickups may be a little too close to the strings when you're bringing them down. So I'm going to adjust that here. And lower that bridge pickup. And we'll give it a final adjustment a little bit later, but for now we just want that clear out of the way. Okay, now I'm going to bring them down until they're just about rattling on the fretboard. And I'm going to check for any buzzing on the fretboard. We'll bring it up slightly, a little bit at a time. Okay, now I'm going to bring this up to pitch again. Now just having lowered the saddle, drop that down about a full step. Okay, again, I'm going to play it the way I like to play it. And normally you would do this while you're holding it in playing position. This will work still here. I'm going to test every fret, every string. That's a little closer than I'd like it to be. And I'm going to check the 6th string also. It's a little bit of rattling, so I know that we're close. Now we're just going to bring the saddle up a little bit. And again, something else you can do too to adjust these if a finger tension is too much. You get a cloth, wrap it around there, get your pliers. If you can see that, just give it a gentle but firm turn. And you don't have to worry about scratching up the surface of your guitar either. And I'll keep checking it for buzzing and rattling. Okay, still a little bit. We're getting closer. About 1/8 of a turn, and another 1/8 of a turn there. And I'm going to take this in small increments, optimize action. I'll check the other strings also while I'm at it. Okay, sounds pretty good. I'm going to bring them up to pitch. And again, we want this tuning to be precise. Okay, I'm still noticing some rattling on the 6th string, so I'm going to bring that up just a tad. There, that's better. Great, there it is, perfectly in tune. The next thing we're going to check for is string intonation. And by string intonation, what we're talking about is that making sure that the length of the string is in proportionate ratios to the fret width. So basically what that means is that if I were playing high E and going up to the G, that the G would be perfectly in tune, not sharp or flat. We'll take it up here to the high E, 12th fret, fret that, play it, play the harmonic, which is essentially just laying a finger gently on top of the string without pushing down on it, plucking it, and you hear a chiming like sound. That should, in theory, be perfectly in tune. All right, and I'll do this with the other strings also. And you may need to readjust this as you go here, making sure you're starting on a string that's perfectly in pitch. Okay, what happens sometimes when you change a string gauge is that the neck will tend to adjust one way or another. In this case, we put on a lighter gauge string set. So in theory, it should set a little closer to the neck already. We gave it a good adjustment to set it nice, low, and close. Most of the strings are perfectly intonated. However, we notice that if I'm playing an E over here perfectly in tune, an F sharp over here, a D, an E, G and an A, and high B. Let's try a C over here too. There they are. About right in tune. Now, particularly in this case, with this low E here, as I start playing other notes, they tend to be unusually sharp. So in order to compensate for that, what we're going to do is essentially lengthen that string. And the way we do that is by adjusting that string saddle. And what we're going to do is move that back a little bit. Give that a clockwise turn, gradually and carefully. Okay, that's about as tight as that's going to get. We'll bring it back up to pitch. Check it again. Okay, intonating the guitar is a very important step in a guitar setup, especially if you're changing string gauge, changing the action, adjusting the truss rod. And again, too, just checking to make sure that the strings are in tune with themselves. Chances are, if you're playing a guitar, you've tuned it, and you're playing chords, and somehow the notes in the chords don't tend to harmonize very well, this is a very important step that I bet you missed. So as we're doing this, of course, make sure that each string is perfectly in tune, and then as you're playing other notes along the guitar, particularly around the 12th fret and above here, see a D and a C and an F sharp and a G, other notes higher than that should still be perfectly in tune. If other notes tend to be consistently sharp or flat, you want to get in here with a small flathead screwdriver and adjust the saddles forward or back and check your tuning. All right, the next thing we can do is, now that the strings are set, level, and intonated, we're going to check height of the pickups. I'm going to bring them back up a little bit. And you can certainly do this while you're playing. Optimal and ideal. Now I'm going to adjust the pickup height while we're playing here, while we've got some sound coming out of it. And one thing I'm looking for is a balanced output from both pickups. Unless you want something a little different, then that's your decision entirely. But raise or lower them while playing until you get the desired sound you're looking for. And generally I'm going to go for about a 1/16 of an inch distance between the strings and the pole pieces. Well, there we go. This guitar is restrung, cleaned up, maintained. We checked the tuning posts, we checked the tuning buttons, all looking good. Clean frets, conditioned fretboard, truss rod is great, action's nice, intonation's good. This guitar is ready to play now. Thanks again for watching. I hope these tips have been helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me here, russell@russellnollen.com. I look forward to seeing you again soon.